Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about, facing discouragement and things that I've done that have helped me overcome discouragement in times when I've been discouraged. Sometimes I have been discouraged with my relationship life, and sometimes I've been discouraged with, some of my kind of business ventures. I've been discouraged with from time to time. Things not going your way, unexpected things, you get frustrated, you know, your plans don't work out and you want to quit. But what do you do to not quit? How do you overcome the emotions and the desire to quit? Well, I'll give you an example. So, like this house that I'm flipping, right? I've been doing it for a while. It's almost done, but it's taken way longer than it should have. I've made some mistakes for sure, gone over budget. I've had to get additional loans and work crazy hours to afford to flip this house. And, it's in my mind and from other people around me, family, co-workers, whatever, it's not going to work out anyway. It's, you know, real estate investing, it doesn't work, renting houses or whatever. It's too many problems. If they don't pay, the tenants don't pay, then, they just get away with it and the courts will drag it on forever and you will never see any of your money. And I had someone who was working up there who was my friend, quote unquote, screwed me out of a lot of money also, and that really discouraged me. And for a long time, I couldn't even go to the house because it just was so overwhelming. It was such a monster to me. I'd never been through anything like that, and I couldn't go there alone at all for a while when all of that was going on with this dishonest individual who, wasted a lot of my money, and now I found myself having to go to court against them and everything else. And it was super discouraging. Super discouraging. So, what helped me get through that? Well, one of the things that helped me get through that was listening to people's success stories. One book that helped me a lot was Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. And you hear about in that book, the people who gave up too soon and things didn't go their way. They gave up too soon and they were closer to being successful than they thought. And, the stories of people who were very successful despite tremendous odds, and that gives you hope. And also, another thing too, this all boils down to will, is what it boils down to, because sometimes what you want, doesn't line up with your emotions. You want to, pursue whatever your goals are, business goals, relationship goals, whatever. And you have these obstacles that occur, and, it probably will occur again and again and again and again and again, various obstacles. And so if you can get some motivation by listening to other people's success stories, and everybody else's success stories are the same way, man. All these people who were ever anybody went through quite a bit that you don't know about or don't hear about. And the fact of the matter is, it almost seems like a natural law that you gotta fail quite a few times before you succeed. And another thing that can help you, is to write down, your feelings or whatever. Write down, look, no matter what happens, I'm gonna stick to the plan. I'm not gonna stop. I want to be a successful real estate investor. I'm going to keep on doing this no matter what, no matter how many times I fail. There's power in the written word. I don't know why, and that's true. There's power in the written word. People respect the written word. You respect the written word. It's like in the Bible, it says the word became flesh. There's power in the written word. It becomes real. If you write down, I'm going to do this and that, whatever, you're a whole lot more likely to abide by it. And I'm not sure 100% really why, but that has been tremendously helpful. I think that's your higher self. That's your, that's your brain talking to your heart. Because sometimes your heart's not going to be in it, but your brain, your will, that is your will speaking. And when you write it and you have to really think about it, then that just helps you tremendously. And that's just like with this YouTube thing, that I'm doing now, uploading these videos once a week or a couple of times a week, whatever, of me sitting here talking to y'all about whatever's happens to be on my mind, and I've never done this before, so sometimes I get discouraged because it's like, hey, nobody's really looking at what I post, but I wrote down that I'm going to continue to post at least once a week, minimum once a week, until it takes off or whatever, until I reach a reasonable level of success with it and I'm happy with it. I'm not going to say I'm going to post forever for the rest of my life, but until I get, a reasonable amount of success out of it that I'm happy with, I'm not going to stop no matter what. I don't care if I don't get any views at all for 5 years, and a lot of YouTubers are like that. But that is what separates the winners from the losers. So journaling helps massively. That's your internal dialogue. Working out whatever problem it is that you have. That is a tremendous way to help you overcome whatever, is burning in your mind. When you do want to quit, when you do feel, like you want to give up or whatever. And your feeling, you got to acknowledge also your feelings are not always going to be on your side. People think, well, I have negative thoughts or whatever. I'm depressed or I have something wrong with me. That's not the way it is. Your brain is supposed to have negative thoughts and to have fears and insecurities. That's what your brain is supposed to do. I read a good book one time called The Confidence Gap. It talks about that. That is a normal, healthy, functioning brain. That is what has enabled you and your ancestors to stay alive. Don't eat that. What if you eat that and it's poisonous? Or, don't go over here in the dark because you don't know what's over there. Your fear has kept you alive. So fear is functional. Insecurities are functional. They've kept you alive, kept your ancestors alive. There's, you don't see other people's fears and insecurities. They don't tell you. But sometimes you have to go against your fears and insecurities to really get where you want to be. Sometimes you got to hear them and then act anyway. So you got to, it's a question of willpower, really. But if you write stuff down, that will help you. And if you listen to the stories of other successful people who have gone through a lot, that will help you. That will help you put some things into perspective. Y'all have a good day. Thank you for watching.